Here we are, Ed, in your hometown.
In my home church.
Oh, your home church even. I appreciate the church and the pastor and you for allowing us to come here and start this episode, the recording of our first episode. And it's just very, very nice of you.
It's pretty exciting too. He did ask that we don't mention the name of the church just in case the videos aren't that good.
I don't blame him, but we'll keep that on the down low until it makes sense to change it. But hey, I wanted to share something with you. There was a luncheon I went to a few weeks ago where former Attorney General John Ashcroft came, and he was talking about in America and the celebration we're about to have, 250 years as a country, which is phenomenal. And both of us being veterans, I think that's
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's great. He did say something that was interesting. He said there was a universal truth called liberty. Everybody is wanting and pursuing liberty. And I thought, wow, that's really cool, because of what we've been working on for a while in this project we call Forged Freedom, and how that kind of plays into, of course, liberty and freedom playing off of that, right?
Sure. I think the two words are interchangeable. Don't look me up on the dictionary, but I think that's exactly what he's referring to. That's what we're looking for, is our own personal freedom, right?
Yeah, and we strive for that as a nation, and we strive for that as families and individuals. And so it's just something that I found that was important. But how do we help more people reach that freedom? And what does that mean?
Right. And why, when you talk about freedom or you're talking about individual liberty, why does it matter that we're incorporating others? I had a sixth grade teacher, looked for her forever. I finally found out just last year that she did pass away. I remember specifically, and I guess as old as we're getting now to remember sixth grade, she told us we could do whatever we wanted in her class as long as we didn't disturb the person next to us. So, of course, that limits you some. Yeah. But she said something else. If you think about it, like I said, it's resonated with me my entire life. She said, your freedom ends where mine begins. And I guess that's why we're looking at the group that we're looking at, right? Because who affects people the most?
Is an emerging leader is a phrase that I'll throw out there because a lot of people have used it, and that's who we're looking to help. Right? We're looking to find anybody that is about to turn into a new role, which they're leading somebody, they're leading an organization, they're leading a team. Maybe they're a new parent. Maybe they're a new couple.
And oftentimes, and I like the way you say that, they're moving into it. They don't even realize that, right?
Right,
when it hits them, I'm influencing people. I've been in the workplace for a while, been a leader for a while. And one of the things I look for when I'm dealing with the employees is who sets themselves apart, who's leading that group. Sure, we have individuals out there that have the titles, right? There's always, in any group setting, there's always someone that sets out or sets themselves apart as leading the group with or without a title. And that's who we're talking to. So I think even as we go into this, maybe we're not talking to somebody who is called a foreman or somebody who's called, a CEO. Maybe we're just talking to somebody who needs to recognize that they have an impact or influence on those around them, and that they need to be using this just as much as the CEO of the company or the pastor of the church or the principal of the school, right? You don't have a title, but you're set apart. So that's why it took me a while to get used to that phrase, but I really like that phrase, emerging leader.
Speaking of that, emerging leaders makes me think of doing new ventures, and new things. And in fact, we're doing a new thing. It is so new, this being our first time, we forgot to introduce ourselves.
That's right. Hey, this is my best friend, Rob Elliott, proud author of the book that started this whole thing, right? And my name is Ed, otherwise known as Just Ed.
Just Ed.
Right.
All right, well, that's good. We've been, Ed, we've been doing life together for, has it been 30 years?
Coming up on 30, since we met originally, no, it is. We met in 1996.
96, okay.
So somebody out there can check our math and make sure 30 years.
It's not like we've been together all the time, because you're all the way up here in Indiana. I live in Arkansas now. I've been there for 26 years. And we met at Fort Riley.
Right.
Yep. And then you felt the Lord said, you got to get out and you got to come up here.
Right. And then You stayed back for a little while, and then God said, "Hey, Rob, it's time for you to go." And the unique thing, though, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about our friendship, is when might be a gap of a week or two. Well, we meet every week, but over the years, there might have been a gap for a few months. But when we get back together, we don't spend time talking about what we missed or why we haven't talked. We just pick right back up on that. And the one thing that has been two things, I suppose. Our belief system has remained the same, and then our desire to do this, right? Although it's been home now to where it is, we've been working on this, honestly, for almost the preponderance of that 30 years. Somewhere, in some way, we believe this to be the case.
And what's really cool, if you didn't know Ed 30 years ago, him trying to talk in front of one person, not a problem, but multiple people, big problem. And today, look how comfortable he is.
Sure. That's because there's nobody here, Rob.
That's right. No, they're all out there, though. All right. Let's move on and just sort of keep talking a bit about what we're trying to accomplish. I have a mission statement that we've written and that we're going to try to stick to as we develop this program. And I think everybody ought to know where we're coming from. And the mission statement says, Forge Freedom exists to empower emerging leaders to forge a life of freedom through intentional decisions, strong character, and a clear vision for the future. Forge Freedom is something I think represents the difficulties of freedom. And, there's a phrase that I've come up with that it's kind of off of something that's very popular. Freedom isn't free. And I think that is true. I've also said freedom isn't free, it is forged. And I think it's forged because we have to work at it. We have to put ourselves every day out into the grind to make sure it happens. We can't sit back and just let it happen to us, because that's when other people like to take it from us, whether it's a country or a boss.
You mentioned at the very beginning of that, the quote from the A.G. Ashcroft. I think that's apropos. You also mentioned the 250 years that we've been a nation, right? We've been a nation and forged for freedom. And the reminder that freedom continues to come at a cost. I think that's amazing then when you talk about your individual freedom, that there's also a cost. It also takes work. And that's why, since you've picked that, I really appreciated the fact that we're forging our freedom, right? I get that impression of the hammer coming down on that hot steel and making it what it is. And it's just not one hit. It's a continual. And sometimes, even after you've forged that freedom, you got to come back and sharpen that sword.
That's what I love about the image. It is not one and done. It is a lifelong commitment. And I think that's something we want to convey right up front. If you're trying to figure out how to do life in the long run, then we want to help you do that. If you're looking for a microwave solution, we're probably not going to help you as much as you want.
We're talking to emerging leaders, those who are stepping out. And when we say that they have to forge their freedom, we're really talking about initially their character, right? We're talking about their character, and you've come up with a phrase I think works really well with that.
Well, here's what I want to do. I want to share what I think freedom is. It's a simple definition of freedom, whether everyone agrees with it or not. And then I'll go into this character piece. Freedom to me, the way I think about it, is it's the power to think and speak and act without internal or external constraints. And that's, I think, freedom in the purest sense. Freedom is you are not limited. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be limited in some ways, like your teacher mentioned earlier.
She said, and how it affects others. And you'll get more into detail, I know. We've had these discussions, but we're not just talking about the big mouth that gets up and says whatever they want, or somebody that tries to overpower the conversation, right? I think as you go into the definition of that character unity, we'll clarify that a little bit. We're talking about feeling free, that what's coming out of here is what is in here and what is in here, right?
And it's pure. It is pure. I think that's great. So character unity was a way for me to say, how can we talk about freedom in a way that is responsible? As your teacher suggests, it doesn't pounce on your freedoms, but it allows me to be free to do what I need to do. The way to describe that with character unity is it's the unity of your thoughts, your speech, and actions with your beliefs and values every single day. What I've added at the end is the values and beliefs, which is something we'll talk a lot about. is faith and values and how that constructs our viewpoints, how it builds us, how it shapes our character. I think it's going to be very important for people to act, to speak, and to think all in unity. That's why I came up with that.
And why is that important, right? The freedom to just say at any given time, because if all of that lines up, then I'm confident that what I say to you is what I mean. And that sounds pretty easy. We all have, or most of us, we have a home life, right? We have a work life. Some of us have a church life. Some of us belong to other groups. And if the person you are is different at home, like I don't use that language at home, or I don't do those things at the house, is different than the person at church, is different at the person in your activities, then you don't have the freedom. You have to make sure that what you're about to say, am I using remember when we were younger that your parents would say inside voice, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario, am I using my home voice? Am I using my church voice? Am I using my work voice? When they're the same, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but when those are the same, I don't have to pause and think about what I'm going to say because it's going to be the same whether I'm talking to my pastor or I'm talking to my boss or I'm talking to my wife or my kids, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you burn a lot of calories if you're trying to remember what you said, when, and where. I mean, that's what we call trying to keep up with a lie.
Hey, is that true? Because I could use any calorie burning.
Different program. It's not really what you shouldn't do. It's just brain calories. But I tell you what, if you are consistent in who you are and in what you do and what you say and all that, you get to be free. In my book, I write that's part of the thing. You get identity freedom is because you know who you are and you know consistently. Well, here's the problem, though. We all have ideas on how to treat somebody. I want to give them respect. I want to make sure that I say nice things to them. But do I act that way? Do I treat them with respect? Or do I actually get mad at them and not treat them with respect? We're human. So there's part of the forging part, right?
Right.
We look at the result and we're like, I did good or I did not. And if I didn't, what do I got to do to make that better? And that's the part of the process.
Sure. And if all of those things line up, at least you have a baseline, right?
Yeah.
So when you step outside of that line, the first correction you're going to be able to do is that autocorrect, right? I think the brain had that first autocorrect. Instead of waking up in the middle of the night and laying there and saying, did I use, and I go back to the voice, did I use my work language at home? Did I accidentally, right? Or if it actually happens, right? Could you imagine you're all these different people and now your workplace person say they're a little more aggressive, a little more. Now that workplace person interacts with your child, right? Both of us have grown kids, but we raised them. Now that workplace voice interacts with your child and they're like, who is this guy? Right? I've never seen that person, or at work if it comes out different. So sure, you have to continually do those assessments, but it'd be nice to sit back and go, well, that old phrase, I am who I am. And that's okay as long as who you are isn't a jerk, right?
Well, and as long as it lines up back to your values and your beliefs, because people say, I am who I am. I'm just, you got to accept who I am. And we are always changing, whether we realize it or not, or if we're intentional or not. And sometimes we change for the worse. And sometimes we intentionally make improvements. And so that's our goal, is to help people make those improvements. And the way we're going to do that through the podcast format is we're going to talk about different things. One of the first things that we'll do is we're going to have the spark. What's the spark? The spark is really just the idea or the element of conversation that we want to cover because something was of interest or we saw somebody struggling with something. So we want to take that and say, here is a problem. Let's walk through it.
Right. Spend a little bit of time on it. Maybe as we move forward, get other perspectives involved in that conversation, right?
Yeah, we're gonna need a lot of perspectives to go there. And once we have the spark, then we're going to move into the forge, which is the place where you work on the tools or the things you're trying to make and build. And that's us. We are trying to make ourselves better people.
You mentioned just a minute ago that, we're talking about I am who I am and how that has changed.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I hope I haven't changed that much, but wonder if 55-year-old me would even carry a conversation with 18-year-old me, right? I hear and see some of the 18-year-olds and some of the things they do. And I know that's what I did, right? Yeah. And now we've changed. And so since we know there's been a change, probably not the same person I was last year, hopefully the core values are the same.
Right.
But if we know there's going to be a change, I guess what we're trying to say is take control of that change and make sure that you're moving in the direction that you want to move, right?
Yeah, there's an author that made a good statement, and he said, "Don't let fate be the author of your life. It's a terrible author."
Right.
So take control of it. But within the Forge, we'll cover a couple things. Maybe not every time, but we'll certainly talk about faith and how that might apply, and we'll also talk about the purpose, like what is your purpose, or what is the purpose of your organization, and those kind of things. I think that'll help us develop ourselves while we're in the Forge. Next thing we're going to go from the Forge is go into the marketplace. And what is the marketplace? It is the place where we work and where we live and where we interact with people. And there's the key element. We deal with people, and they're going to approve of our behavior because we're acting civilized, or they're going to be put off by our behavior because we're being rude. They're going to buy our products because of whatever reason. But that's the marketplace, right?
I know we've discussed marketplace before, but just to clarify that a little more for me, we're not talking about, we're not just talking about work and church and that. Your marketplace starts at home, right? That's who you are and how you want your family to view you.
That's right.
In our cases, we're the leader of the family. I hope my wife doesn't vote me out, but we consider ourselves the head of the household, right?
Right.
How do our children, how do our wives perceive us, and how do we interact with them? And is that consistent?
Yeah, and that's the first marketplace for us, right? The home is a marketplace. If you are a volunteer, that place is a marketplace. So yeah, it's good clarification. We are in the marketplace, basically, where there are people. Now, the other thing to think about when you're in the marketplace and you have people, they have expectations and you have responsibilities. And so something else we'll talk about is this word called stewardship. We're going to talk about relationships, and we're going to talk about stewardship.
Just to be clear, we're not marketing ourselves, right? Sometimes we're trying to play up who we are. We're just trying to make sure that we're consistent with who we are, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to have to, and go just a little bit, like we talked about a little bit earlier, right? If I'm dealing with my family and I want to be able to just interact with my family and they see who I am, the same as who I am at work, the same as who I am in the outside. So when we say be cognizant of how we interact, we don't want to be changing channels. We just want to be that same person each time. And we can do that with confidence once we've built that character unity, once we've focused on that.
Yeah, I think of instances when people have seen other people in situations and they go, well, I never expected that from you, or I never expected that to happen with that. And it's because this person is seeing someone that they know from work, let's say, in a volunteer situation, and they act totally different and they're totally surprised. So that consistency was shot for that person. So the question is, can we be consistent?
And I like the way you gave that optimistic, positive view. I was just sitting there thinking on a negative side, I'm always amazed, that as a supervisor, because I don't take myself that seriously, I'm amazed when I realize that other people put on a different face when they're around the supervisor. And I go back to when I first became a leader of leaders, I had an employee that other employees just didn't want to work with, right? They would come to me and they would bring these issues, and that's not that person, because every time I see that person, they're like, Ed, how are you? And they're just as nice and pleasant as could be, or Mr. Witham, all the different things. And then one night that person had a crisis at home and they called me to tell me they weren't going to be there. And I saw the person that the other people see, right?
Yep.
And just like you said, you gave that optimistic view. We also don't want to give that negative side, like, whoa, wait a second, could you do me a favor? I'd like to talk to, personality number one, if I may.
Who's the real you? That's who I want to talk to.
Right.
And we don't really want anybody to fake it. We just want them to improve and operate within a space that they are growing. Let's try to get that consistent. Let's try to get you something and some tools and some information that helps you become the person you really want to be, because we'll talk about this down the road. I see a lot of people thinking and talking about today and tomorrow, and they forget about anything beyond that. But so that's for a later time. But the other thing we'll do is after the marketplace, we'll share some forging actions, is what I'm calling it. Forging actions. You go in and you do A, B, and C. Those are suggestions. You can do with it what you want, all of it or none of it. And then we'll wrap up, and then that'll be the format. So it should be straightforward, but who knows where it's going to take us, right?
It's time to get those hammers up.